Thank y'all for joining me today. For the ones who are here, all right, we got a new moon tomorrow. We have a new moon tomorrow in Libra. New moon tomorrow in Libra, and that's what we are here to speak about. What's going on? How you doing? There's a reverb. Still? Is the echo still going on? Check 1 2, check 1 2. Let's see. Check 1 2, check 1 2. Is it still going on? How about now? Check 1 2, check 1 2. What's up, Mr. Mental? Is the echo still going on? All right, how y'all doing? Hope all is well on this Sunday. I came on here to take y'all through a little trip, to understand, we got this new moon in Libra tomorrow, and a lot of times you hear people talk about it's intention setting time, set the intention and all of that, but where to set the intention? Where should you? It's Libra, and you could look at your Libra house in your chart and go off of that, which, you may be valid, but and be in the ballpark. You will be in the ballpark. You won't be off, but maybe intentions will be more successful if you be a little bit more intentional with your intention. Targeted. And for it to be targeted, you kind of need to know the story that is going on. Right? And so let's go back. Right? And the Venus is the ruler of Libra. And so Venus, what this new moon it has a Venusian flavor, Venus this is my sign, so I am planting a seed of intention in Libra, my sign, Venus. Now, what does Venus rule? It's what we attract, what we love, what we value, among other things. Right? And so this is a Venus new moon, which means the full moon in 6 months from now, which is going to be a Libra full moon. The full moon in Libra, which will be April. I think it'll be April Fool's. And so I was thinking, If you set the right intention now, when we get to April Fools in 2026, you won't be sitting there feeling like the fool. And as I was looking at this stuff, I realized that if we just focus on Venus, we will miss some things. We'll miss some things, right? And a lot of this stuff, the big story is going down in kind of a 3-part act. And there's a bigger story that's a year-long story that's going on. And this Venus, this new moon in Libra, has something to do with the bigger year-long story. Right? And so we got Act 1, which was Venus's purification, which in all actuality, when it comes to Act 1, we already went through that. And we're completed with Act 1. So I was going to take you back to bring you forward. All right. And then Act 2 is actually in progress. And that has to do with Mercury and Jupiter. All right. The Act 1 was about Venus's travel, which I'm about to show you. And Act 1 was about, Venus's condition in Libra, in Pisces is exaltation. And so Act 1 was about Venus's exaltation trip, journey from exaltation to fall, illusion to truth, fantasy to reality. Right? Fantasy Island, the plane, Ricardo Montalban. And then Act 3 is about Jupiter's expansion, and Jupiter's expansion is a year-long journey that I was talking about. And then we also have someone standing that in today's time they would call them a gatekeeper. And Saturn has been standing there as the gatekeeper. We also have that story of the eclipse axis, Pisces to Virgo, faith and surrender, divine flow versus precision, service, earthly mastery. And with the nodes going through there, right? That's where the eclipses has been happening. North Node in Pisces, which is Jupiter's domain. And North Node commands growth. Add in Pisces, growth towards faith. South Node in Virgo, which is a Mercury rule sign. And South Node demands release. Add Virgo in there, release of perfectionism. Right? So, Act 1, we see here, January 2nd, Venus was at 29 degrees Aquarius. January 3rd, Venus entered into Pisces. Venus entered into her exaltation. Right? And Venus, as you can see, the moon was there with Venus. And this is equivalent to the a princess going in her castle, being waited on hand and foot, right? And Venus started moving along. And around January 19th, Venus had her first meeting. Well, in all actuality, this is Venus's second meeting with Saturn. In all actuality, Saturn went into Pisces in March of 2023. That's when Saturn actually went into Pisces. And so the first meeting of and Saturn, the Lord of the underground, karma, disciplinarian. Let's just say Saturn went in March of 2023, went into the princess's castle and looked around and said, "Hey, you got some work to do. They got some cleaning up to do up in here. There's no structure in here. There's no order. There's none of that." And so, in all actuality, the first time Venus met Saturn in Pisces was in 2024, March of 2024. And that was the first meeting. So in all actuality, this January 19th meeting at 16 degrees Pisces was actually the second meeting of Venus and Saturn in Pisces. Right? And so it was kind of like at that moment, Saturn was kind of checking in on Venus saying, "Hey, is this how you want it?" And so Venus met with Saturn in January and moved on. And then around January 31st, right at the end of January, Venus met up with Neptune. And Neptune is the planet of illusions, fog, dreams. Now you got a princess in a castle and she meets the illusion fog, the Lord of illusion, fog, and dreams at the same time. And when Venus met Saturn at 16 degrees, it was like Saturn was asking Venus to make a promise, a vow. And at this moment, when it met Neptune, the promise was real, but it was wrapped in Neptunian fog and mist. You couldn't tell where destiny ended and delusion began. It was truth wrapped in a beautiful fog. Was it deception? Was it a test? Could you hold the vision while learning to see clearly? Then Venus moved on, right? The very next day, it hit the North Node, beginning of February. And you got an exalted Venus in Pisces hit the North Node at the 28th degree, which is the critical degree. And now you're about to hear something. I'm about to say something for the first time on this video. It hit in the bounds of Saturn and Pisces. So this meeting with the North Node was in the bounds of Saturn, which means Saturn had something to say. And Saturn, Venus and Saturn had just met. Remember? And at this time, it felt like this could have been what you've been waiting for. The moment. The alignment could have felt fated, destined. Finally, is this heaven sent? Right? Then, hey y'all, keep in mind, we're talking about the ruler of this new moon, where you planting the seed. Then Venus moved on and went into Aries, and Venus in Aries is in its detriment. Venus moved on, went on up, and then when Venus got to about 10 degrees, Aries, they said, hold up, partner. Whoa, Kimasabi. You need to come on back to the palace. You thought you was moving on. You thought your work was done. But you need to come on back. And look what's going on in Pisces at the moment, y'all. Look how many planets there's in Pisces. 4 planets. Whoa, we got a Pisces. Hey, Princess Venus. They got a party going on in your palace and you not here. You not here. You need to come on back. You need to come on back and review. Venus, review. Retrograde, review, rewind, reminisce. So Venus came on back, started coming on back. Had a meeting with Mercury. Mercury, see, at 8 degrees. They both at 8 degrees. And not only did Venus go retrograde, but Mercury went retrograde as well in Aries. All right? And so they both, Venus and Mercury, had to make their way back to the palace. All right? And before Venus got there, she had a Cazimi with the sun. You see that right there at 2 degrees? 2 degrees, Aries. And a Cazimi is a burning off of karma. So Venus was retrograde, hit Aries, the sun, an exalted sun at 2 degrees, Aries, before getting back to the castle. All right? And so Venus had a meeting with Neptune in reverse, the dream, right? Oh, when Venus was in Aries and got all the way up to 10 degrees and turning point and had to descend back to Pisces, at that moment, questions of, is this really what I want, was coming in. Is this real? Am I seeing things clearly? Where is Pisces, y'all, in your chart? Where's Venus in your chart? Keep this in mind. 222, shout out to the universe. Then Venus kept moving backwards. All right, had a meeting with the moon there, kept moving backwards. Then, boom, hit the north node of destiny again. In reverse. Review, questioning. Then, it had another meeting with Saturn. Look at the degree. Keep these degrees in mind. 25 degrees, Pisces, in reverse. Came back to the Lord of Karma. Right? Kept moving. Got to 24 degrees Pisces. And said, okay, review period is over. Let's move back forward. And then started moving back forward. And look right here. At this point, Venus at 26 degrees met Saturn and the North Node. Saturn and the North Node. By the way, y'all, don't forget, Venus eclipses is going on in Pisces. And Venus, the first time in retrograde, Venus encountered Saturn. This was the descent into the underworld, the questioning, dissolving of illusions, the karmic review in retrograde review. Saturn was watching Venus silently, and Venus was just spiraling downward. Venus was reviewing every relationship, everything Venus valued, everything that Venus was attached to. And then Venus came up out of retrograde, station direct, and at this point, Venus was hovering between the past and the future. Am I looking back or am I going forward? And at this moment, Venus had to make a choice. Who was going to live? The old version of Venus or the new version? But for the new version to live, the old version must die. And then we got to this point where Saturn and the North Node, Venus met Saturn in the North Node. And this was the fourth time with Saturn. And it was direct. Venus, this is the moment we was making a conscious vow, the sacred yes. Saturn in the North Node was affirming your destiny. Y'all was working out the deal, making a handshake. This promise was being made in Piscean waters. And Pisces can be formless, and this was about faith. This vow was spiritually binding. It was witnessed by Saturn and sealed at the destiny point, which is North Node. They made that vow. And then they moved on. Venus moved on. They all moved on, right? 26 degrees, y'all. Venus moved on from there. By the way, Venus went into Aries, met the Neptune again. Now remember, Venus met Neptune at the critical degree twice in Pisces. Now Venus is meeting Neptune for the first time in Aries in the energy of initiation. Remember, she just made a vow. Venus just made a vow. And now we moved into Aries energy, which is the energy of initiation. Right? And this was this is about Venus, independence, raw desire. And then Venus moved on. Let's hurry up and move Venus on. All right. You can see she had a meeting with the Chiron there. Went into her own domicile in Taurus. This is her own domicile, and Venus Venus in Taurus is about grounded pleasure. She started to embody the new value, sensuality, grounded reality. And then Venus moved on and went into Gemini. And at this point, Venus, it was all about communicating values, mental clarity about what Venus desires. And then Venus moved on. And, oh, by the way, let me go back. Just to make a note. You know, the whole time all this stuff was going on in Pisces, the ruler of Pisces, which is Jupiter, was in detriment in Gemini the whole time. So while all this stuff was going on in Pisces, the ruler of that sign was in detriment in the sign of communication. Why is Jupiter? Why does Jupiter in detriment? Jupiter, well, first of all, it's an opposite sign in rules. And so Jupiter is big, bold, and expansive. Likes big things. Gemini is a Mercury rule sign that likes detail. So, Jupiter and Gemini is like, hey, let's go here. Let's go to a destination. And Mercury and Gemini is like, okay, where's the directions on how to get there? And Jupiter is just saying, look, can't we just go? No, we need to know how to get there. All right, that's pretty much a simple example of to give you a visual of Jupiter. All right, so during this whole time, by the way, during this whole time that all this stuff was going on in Pisces, the ruler was in detriment, which, Jupiter is responsible for what goes on in Pisces. The reason I wanted to go back is because, and make note of that, is because we was coming to a point, and I said this stuff it has what I'm talking about actually has a 3-part act, and the second part of the act kind of begins right around here. You see, Jupiter has went into Cancer. That's significant because that's Jupiter's exalted position. Cancer. Jupiter is exalted in Cancer. So the ruler of Pisces, right, was in detriment. All that time, all that stuff was going on in Pisces. Now it finally went into its exaltation in Cancer. And I was talking about, Venus moving around. Now let's go back. Let's keep going forward. Remember, Jupiter went into Cancer June 10th, 2024. No, 2025. All right. So a clock started going on. Okay. So Jupiter stays in a sign pretty much a year. And the title of this is the year-long purification. Now we got the ruler of Pisces, right, was in detriment, while the exalted ruler of Pisces is going through making these vows. Y'all with me? You see where I'm going now? Why I'm talking about Venus there, because we got the new moon, Libra, which is ruled by Venus. So you kind of got to know what Venus has been going through. All right? And so Jupiter went into Cancer. Venus was coming around. Went into Gemini, about communication. Then Venus went into Cancer. Venus in Cancer, it was about emotional security, nurturing connections, protective love. Protective love. And you see Venus and Jupiter coming to a meeting. They met at 13 degrees, Cancer. 13 degrees Cancer is actually in the bounds of Mercury. And Venus, why is this significant? Because Venus and Jupiter traditionally are the two benefic planets. They come in to do good things. So, hey, they finally meeting. Jupiter is now out of detriment, and he's now Jupiter's in the catbird seat. Jupiter's sitting in his castle. And Jupiter is saying, oh, yeah, I saw that party going on in the castle, our castle over there. I didn't like who was over there. I didn't like who was invited. I didn't like who was over there. And so I stayed over here. Now I just came on over to my summer home. And I'm glad you can join me over here in my summer home. Even though you're not exalted in my summer home, feel free, they'll wait on you. That was kind of what was going on there. Then Venus moved on from there. We in August. Venus is in Leo. And this is about Venus started being creative expression, more heart-centered joy, authentic celebration, Leo, all of that. And then in September, right around getting toward the end of September, boom, September 19th, Venus enters Virgo. Why is this significant? Because I've been talking about all these conditions. Venus exalted, Venus in her own domicile, Venus sitting over there with exalted Jupiter. Now Venus going in Virgo, Venus is in fall in Virgo. Venus doesn't like Virgo. Venus is opposite of Virgo. And the way I explain that is that's like the princess in her castle being asked to come down here and wash the dishes and clean the kitchen. Hey, can you cook dinner? And then after you cook, I want you to clean up and wash. And Venus is looking around like, yo, I'm the princess. I thought I was a princess. And so at this time, Venus's fall in Virgo, it doesn't mean actually, weakness. Let's just say at this time, Venus was receiving a humbling. After being in Pisces, Venus in Pisces is maximum romance, maximum fantasy, right? Now, Venus is in Virgo, and Venus is in Virgo was asking, when it comes to your Venus and Virgo and all of this stuff, right? Now, does this actually work day to day? Could this actually work day to day? Can you love the reality? Not just the ideal. We all got a vision of love, or what we want. But when faced with the reality of what we want, can you love that? Venus was, at this point, being asked to be devoted through service, find beauty in precision, love that sees clearly and chooses anyway. Venus, remember, in Pisces, Venus was over there in fantasy land. Now you're back home on the main island in reality, and now you're seeing clearly. The person you idealized started showing their human flaws. And you decided if you could love the reality of those human flaws. I need to turn on. By the way, I have to go back. Saturn also had moved on out of Pisces. But Saturn also went retrograde, and Saturn went back into Pisces. You see here at the bottom. All right. Now I gotta turn something on. I gotta turn the south node on. And Venus is in Virgo. Don't forget, y'all. Eclipses is popping off. Venus moved along. Right? We got here. Look at this. Venus with the south node. And the south node has something to do with letting go, walking away from. And then, so you was faced with the dream. Now you seeing with reality. And then at this point, the South Node and all that say, hey, if you're going to do that vow and you're going to go toward that North Node, there is things you need Venus, there's things you need to let go of. Old patterns, old perfectionism ways and stuff like that. Right? Then Venus moved on, crossing over the South Node, and kept moving on. And then, boom! By the way, wait, hold up. Let me go back, because I got to do this by hours, because it was real quick. Boom, look at this. Venus is at 26 degrees, Virgo. And where is Saturn? At 26 degrees, Pisces. Do y'all remember me saying way back earlier when I started, hey, keep that 26 degree in mind. Remember? That was when Saturn, Venus, and the North Node was all at 26 degrees, and Venus was moving forward. And at that point, Venus was making a vow to Saturn and the North Node. Hey, I'm vowed. Now, October 11th, right? Oh, I forgot. We had that. October 11th, we get to this point. And so this is Saturn checking in with Venus on that vow that, hey, Venus. You remember? And it just crossed over the South Node. It made the vow with the North Node, and it crossed over the South Node. You think the North Node didn't call the South Node? And say, hey, check in with Venus. By the way, let me go back for a couple of days. Boom, 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 boom. Look right here. October 6th, we had a full moon, the Aries full moon. Yeah, the moon was in Aries, but the sun was in Libra, Venus ruled sign. Right? Now, then Venus, October 14th, which was 5 days ago, Venus, hold up. Before Venus left, I'm going to go back to the Saturn, the opposition with Venus. Right? And Saturn at this point was asking Venus, what you promised in faith, Pisces, what you promised in faith, can you enact with precision, Virgo? What you vowed to do in the waters of Pisces, can you build on solid ground, Virgo? Can all that mystical manifestation, mumbo jumbo, affirmation stuff that you be doing, can you really manifest that stuff on earth? It's good to talk a big game, but can you make it happen? Can you make it happen, Captain? What's up, Sim? Right now, let's go to now. Look at this. Look at this. Venus. Look what's going on right now. Venus and the moon. This is currently right now in the sky, y'all. Venus and the moon are together at 7 degrees Libra. Leading up to tomorrow's new moon. All right, so let's go a day. By the way, just meeting with Saturn and all of that, and these questions that Saturn was asking Venus, it was kind of way Venus at graduation. Venus being initiated. Venus, Saturn, keeper of the tradition. Hey, Venus, if you move forward, you got to move forward with dignity, precision. Be devoted to excellence. The South Node conjunction, and going over that, was releasing the fantasy to see what's real and honor what remained. Jupiter was in sextile to, Jupiter. Remember I told you Jupiter is in exalted position, and Jupiter is water to earth is sextile, and Jupiter was actually helping. Remember, Jupiter rules Pisces, Venus is exalted there, so Jupiter does want to help Venus out. Hey, you exalted in my rulership, so I don't want to see the downfall of you. And so Jupiter started helping Venus out. We got to the full moon. The fog of Neptune started burning off. We started seeing clearly, trying to come with what we value more. Hey, I used to think I used to value that, but was that really real? Right? Venus enters into Libra, after going through the exaltation, after going through the retrograde, after making her vow, after the fall when she entered into Virgo, the opposition, then we get to the release. She finally gets to her own sign, and that's what it was about, the Saturn opposition. Hey, I'm going to let you go forward because you earned grace. You're not naive anymore. The things that you were going through this trip from Pisces to Virgo was you being forged in fire, earth, water, and all of that. Right now, that was the Venus story. And that, like I said, we are in a new moon. The new moon is in Libra. Right? But there's a bunch of stories going on. The nodes, as you can see, they are been traveling through Pisces and Virgo. And eclipses popping off there. So the North Node in Pisces. But why am I bringing this up? Because I was talking about Jupiter and Pisces. And because I was talking about Pisces and I was talking about Virgo, right? Venus is travel. But Pisces and Virgo has a ruler where the nodes are. And the ruler of Pisces is Jupiter. And the ruler of Virgo is Mercury, where the South Node is. North Node is in Pisces, where Jupiter. And so the North Node of destiny in the path we're supposed to be going is in the sign of faith, flow, and surrender. Faith, flow, and surrender. The South Node, which is Mercury's sign, and South Node is the release point, and Virgo is over analyzing and control. Right? And Libra is the scales of balance, and Libra is all about relationships. You can't abandon one for the other. When it comes to this eclipse point, you can't abandon one node for the other node. You got to learn how to bring them into the right relationship with each other. We at the new moon seeding point, and this new moon is happening at 28 degrees Libra. 28 degrees Libra. You see here, Tuesday, October 21st. All right. This is the seeding point. And what's going on? The moon and sun are going to be at 28 degrees Libra. The Venus is at 9 degrees Libra. There's a conjunction of Mercury and Mars at 20 degrees. 20 degrees Scorpio. Jupiter is exalted, still in Cancer, in his exalted position. All right. If you look in the middle, all right, if I turn, let me turn, so y'all can get a better picture. If you look in the middle of the circle, you see there's a triangle, a blue triangle, and then there's a red. What you're looking at is a grand trine and water, a water grand trine, that would be the blue, and you're looking at a T-square, an opposition between the sun and the sun and moon are together in an opposition with Chiron, the wounded healer. You got and you see them all at looking at something, right? Now, you have a story that's going on here. But the story really gets more interesting when you turn on the bound rulers. And then you get to really start to see a story starts to come alive, right? And why do I say that? Because when you turn on the bound rulers, when you're looking at things through bounds, you know, these planets need to go through this bound lord to get its agenda done. And when you start looking at where things at in the bounds and all that, I was like, wait, they all working toward a certain agenda, right? So the new moon is in the bounds of Mars. The new moon in Libra at 28 degrees is in the bounds of Mars. Peace through decisive action. By the way, y'all, this is the seeding point. I'm talking about the seeding point, so hopefully this is where you are supposed to be, your seed of intention here. All right. So 28 degrees, bounds of Mars. No, decisive action. You can't avoid it. Both the new moon, 28 degrees, and if you look at Chiron over there, Chiron at 24 degrees Aries is also in the bounds of Mars. So Mars has something to go on, has something to say about this new moon, the sun and moon, new moon seeding, and Chiron, the wounded healer, opposition. And you see, I said they at that focal point with Jupiter at the axis of this tension. As in Jupiter sitting up there mediating between the sun and moon over here and Chiron, the wounded healer. Venus at 9 degrees, which is the ruler of this new moon seeding, is sitting in the bounds of Mercury. Why is that significant? She's sitting in the bounds of the South Node ruler. Remember, she just came through a fall. So Venus is carrying both earned wisdom with her, though, from the purification and the South Node, going through the South Node. What you say, analyze, or perfect may be what needs releasing. Maybe that thing that you've been working on to try to perfect, maybe that's and overanalyzing, maybe that's the actual thing that needs releasing. Now, if I said Mercury and Mars are conjunct in Scorpio at 20 degrees. Own sign. That's Mars's rulership. But they're both in the bounds of Jupiter. So that's Mercury and Mars at the seeding moment is kind of working for Jupiter. The North Node ruler of destiny. Mars in its own sign is powerful, penetrating. And you put that with Mercury, the mind. Mars is giving Mercury the courage to cut to the core. Mars likes to cut and sever. It's in Jupiter's bounds, insists that this serves the larger purpose, moral clarity, wisdom through shadow, integration, penetrating speech, a verbal exorcism, liberating truth. Remember, Libra, balance of relationships. Remember, Jupiter, North Node, the vow. Jupiter is in Cancer, and it's in its own bounds. What's that mean? Jupiter right now is at maximum power, maximum strength, and at this focal point. We got the water grand trine, Jupiter in Cancer. We got Mercury and Mars in Scorpio over there. We got the retrograding Saturn, who is the guardian of the vow at 26 degrees Pisces. Saturn's still holding the vow point, reviewing whether promises by Venus and everyone else are being kept. Are y'all here? Yeah. Saturn's presence in this, y'all still hear me, right? Saturn's presence in this grand trine is ensuring that the wisdom keeps flowing with structure, accountability, and it also brings a karmic weight. Saturn is bringing emotional intelligence to the party, ancestral healing, psychic depth, but all of this is going on with Saturn's stabilizing presence. Jupiter also pointed out the cardinal T-square, because Libra, Cancer, Aries is all cardinal signs. The sun at 28 degrees Libra in the bounds of Mars. Chiron at 24 degrees Aries in the bounds of Mars. Jupiter at the apex. The womb, Chiron, and the lunation are carrying Mars urgency. The question of I or we. This energy demands decisive action. Chiron at 24 degrees in the bounds of Mars is asking a question. Now, there's two sides of a question. Am I not enough? Or am I too much? Could you be being too much? Or are you wounded from the feeling of not being enough? The wound is activating. By the way, y'all, this is in the air right now. What I'm talking about is in the air. Y'all better be paying attention. The wound is activating, inflammatory, urgent, demanding courage. This T-square is revealing your growth activities, where growth activates your wounds, which destabilize your relationship. Remember, Libra, balancing our relationships. Virgo shadow, South Node shadow, Mercury, perfectionism, Jupiter's medicine, North Node, expand through the wound. The shadow council through the bound rulers, you got Jupiter, Mercury, Mars, Venus, Sun and Moon. Everything is flowing toward Jupiter. So in a way, that's why I said you gotta, if you just focus on Venus and Libra, you might focus this intention in the wrong direction, because this is really a Jupiter initiation disguised as a Libra lunation. Saturn holds the vow point, ensuring accountability. And you know how that word can be triggering to some. Accountability, accountable who? Mars and Venus are both strong. Mars in his own domicile, Venus in her own domicile. Mars in Scorpio is surgical precision. Venus in Libra, after this earned wisdom, is the graceful container, both benefic and malefic. Mars is a malefic. Both benefic and malefic are dignified, meaning they in good position. All right, calculated for maximum evolutionary impact. Saturn is sitting there trying to be the witness of it all, sitting at the vow point. They're breaking out on highs. Not that you. Right? Saturn is sitting retrograde at the vow point, y'all. Still sitting there. Where Venus made her vow with Saturn in the North Node. This is not just a fresh start, it's a vow beginning under Saturn's witness. And Saturn's asking Venus, did you really mean it? Are you acting, or are you planting the seed of fantasy? All right. Now, I could stop here and, but if I stopped here, it may be incomplete. Because, okay, this is the seed point, this is the seeding point, but where's the flowering point? So should we go there? The flowering point would be the Libra full moon, which pretty much 6 months from now, which is going to be April 1st, 2026 at 12 degrees. Balance returning through embodied truth. If you ain't embodied this truth, you ain't going to get balance. Hey, if you plant a seed in the ground, shouldn't you know what type of seed you're planting to know what flower is going to bloom? Or do you want to just grab a handful of seeds, throw them in the ground, and whatever pops up, that's what it is? Do you think you're going to be happy with that? So we actually need to go to this full moon to figure out what seed you really want to put in this ground. And like I said, the full moon will be April 1st. Let's go to April 1st. What's going to be going on? Where are things going to be? Oh, look at the shift. Look at all this shift going on. And you know, when planets shift, things happen. They got a lot of shifting going on out here. People just flinging shift all over the place. And as you can see, this full moon will be at 12 degrees Libra. 12 degrees. Right? Which is actually 2 degrees away from where Venus turned retrograde. And so this full moon will be echoing the rebirth, the death and rebirth point across this Venus's axis, right? Where Venus went and questioned everything. Now, with the bounds out there, why? Now you make me wondering why I brought in Mars and all that. Because the sun will be in Aries, the moon will be at 12 degrees Libra, but the sun will be in Aries, which is a Mars ruled sign. The moon will be in Venus ruled sign. All right. The relationship axis requires partnership and autonomy. Venus and Mars cooperation, or have to learn to cooperate together. Cooperate with assertion. Now, what else is different? When Venus, at the new moon, Venus was in her domicile in Libra. Now, at this full moon in April, Venus is going to be in her earthly domicile in her own bounds. She's going to be strong at this full moon. She's going to go from her airy domicile to her earthly domicile. What began in air must be rooted in earth. Venus even stronger she's going to be even stronger than she was at the new moon. Grounded embodiment of earned wisdom, beauty, security, sensual presence over abstract. Mars will be at 23 degrees in its own bounds. But in Pisces, why am I bringing that up? I told you, don't forget Jupiter. Told you to keep Jupiter in the back of your mind. Mars maintains dignity through the bound rulership in Jupiter's domicile. Pisces is also Venus's exaltation. Don't forget that. So, Mars, ruling the full moon sun, operates where Venus is exalted, which brings in the hidden Venus signature underlining the Mars energy. Now you see why I had to start way back in January with what was going on with Venus. Now, at the new moon, you remember Mercury was together at 20 degrees in Scorpio at the seeding point. Now, at the full moon, Mercury is in another water sign with Mars. Scorpio is fixed water. Pisces is mutable water. They would conjunct in Scorpio at the new moon, at the full moon. They're gonna be not conjunct because they, as you can see, they're gonna be like pretty much 10 degrees from each other. They're gonna be co-present in Pisces, which is Jupiter's sign. And Jupiter, Mercury will be in the bounds of Jupiter. What's that mean? Mercury's in fall in Pisces, but it's going to be in the bounds of Jupiter. Mercury got to talk to Jupiter, right? As you can see, Mercury's at 14 degrees, 15 degrees. Jupiter is at 15 degrees. Well, y'all remember, I don't know if you remember, but Jupiter was at 24 degrees Cancer at the new moon. But Jupiter, what's Jupiter doing at 15? Oh, wait a minute. That means Jupiter must have went retrograde. It did. And Jupiter, by the time we get to this full moon, Jupiter had retrograde back, and Jupiter is in the bounds of Mercury. Ain't that something? And you remember, I was telling y'all, when a planet is in somebody else's bounds, it got to work through that bound rule. Jupiter is in the bounds of Mercury, and Mercury's in the bounds of Jupiter, in Jupiter's sign, right? But I don't know if y'all realize this, but Mercury and Jupiter are not actually friends. They're actually adversaries. Paul, why are you saying that? Hey, Mercury rules Virgo and Gemini. It falls. It's in detriment and fall in Sagittarius and Pisces, which is Jupiter rules sign. Jupiter rules Sagittarius and Pisces. It's in detriment and fall in detriment in Virgo and Gemini, which is Mercury rules sign. So Jupiter and Mercury rule opposite signs from each other. That's why they kind of have an adversarial relationship. Right? So Mars and Mercury was together at the new moon at 20 degrees. And now they back together in Pisces. But Mars is kind of leading the way for Mercury. Right? New moon, Mercury empowered by the strong Mars and Scorpio, by the full moon, falling. It's falling, but it's escorted by Pisces, Mars and Pisces. Sharp Scorpio investigation dissolves into Piscean intuition. Language blurs, but Mars ensures Mercury doesn't dissolve entirely. The analytical mind surrenders control, but transmutes rather than disappears. Mars is acting as the psychopump, from penetration to dissolving, from fixing to allowing. The warrior becomes the mystic. Sometimes the most powerful action is non-action. How y'all feel about that one? The most powerful action sometimes can be non-action. All right. Now we got all of this energy converging on Pisces, which is Mars and Mercury in Pisces. Jupiter's traveling alone, currently, but just because it's in a sign by itself doesn't mean it doesn't have support. That's what aspects are about. So Jupiter domicile, Pisces is Jupiter's domicile, faith, expansion. Pisces is Venus's exaltation, love, beauty, reciprocity being at its peak. The North Node is there, destiny point, surrender to something larger than yourself. Pisces becomes the alchemical vessel where Mars and Mercury travel together. Jupiter's wisdom meets Venus's grace. The North Node, destiny manifests, and vowing points host Mercury-Jupiter reconciliation. Right? The game changer really is this Jupiter-Mercury dynamic. With them being in each other's bounds, what that's called is mutual reception by bounds. This is the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Adversaries being forced to collaborate. Neither one of y'all could win, but y'all must cooperate. Mercury without Jupiter is sterile analysis or paralysis by analysis. Jupiter without Mercury is inflated delusion and spiritual bypassing. By the way, spiritual bypassing might be the cousin of spiritual decay. If you want to know what spiritual decay is, go on Brain Repair. Make sure you look up the live on spiritual decay to get a deeper meaning on spiritual decay. But spiritual bypassing could actually be the cousin of spiritual decay. Mercury with Jupiter is wisdom, analysis serving meaning. Jupiter with Mercury is grounded expansion, faith that manifests. What good is it to have ideas if you never actually make them manifest on Earth? Right? Saturn at this point now was in retrograde and all that, still hanging out at the vow point. Now Saturn is in Aries, direct. The guardian of the vow moved on from Pisces, sitting at 5 degrees Aries, but it's sitting in the bounds of Jupiter. And remember, Pisces is Jupiter's sign. So now Saturn was sitting there holding the vow, Jupiter's vow, this vow from Venus made, right? And now it's sitting in Jupiter's bounds at 5 degrees Aries, right? Direct. Saturn, by this point, would have completed his review and verified if the vow was completed and acted upon. From review to action, from Pisces, dissolving old forms, to Aries, initiating new ones. Saturn in the bounds of Jupiter is disciplined expansion, structured courage. The guardian has moved on because the work should be done. Yes, I said it, work. I know y'all don't like that word. I know that word could be triggering to some, but the work should be done by this time. Saturn and Pluto will be in a sextile. The structural container, Saturn at 5 degrees Aries, sextiling Pluto at 5 degrees Aquarius. Pluto is about death and regeneration. So we got creative transformation with structure, wisdom meeting regenerative power. This ensures that the Mercury-Jupiter collaboration has bones, form, the capacity to manifest in reality. The elder wisdom and transformative power build something new from what was released. You have to release the energy. Air, cardinal air, Libra, initiation through relationships. Water, fixed water in Scorpio at the new moon, penetration of emotional truths. You gotta go down deep into your emotional body to get to the truth, to release. Now, water, mutable Pisces, surrender and dissolve. Earth, Venus gonna be an earth, fixed earth, embody what remains. Thought, feeling, form. Mercury works with Jupiter. You got the hermetic agent meeting the philosophical teacher. Mars provides activation. Venus is providing the container. Saturn provides the structure and ensure you're going to keep this vow. Hey, I don't care what you do after this, but I signed you up for this. I paid my money for you to play this season. You're going to finish this season. I don't care if you never play this sport again. You finishing this season because you vowed. You signed your name on this line to play this season. You finish it out. You heard that before, huh, P Money? Mercury versus Jupiter. Y'all, now I told y'all that Mercury and Jupiter are adversaries and they're ruling two different signs. Boom, boom. And in all actuality, Mercury and Jupiter are the two rulers of the mutable cross. Mercury rules Virgo, where the South Node is, analysis, perfectionism, and Gemini, information and exchange. Jupiter rules, by the way, Virgo is the feminine domicile of Mercury. Gemini is the masculine domicile of Mercury. Pisces is the feminine domicile of Jupiter, where the North Node is. Pisces is about faith. And it's Sagittarius is the masculine domicile of Jupiter, which is about expansion and belief. By the way, you see how Pisces, Jupiter, and water is faith. Jupiter and Sag is belief. Question: is faith and belief the same thing? But I'll move on. The tension between Mercury and Jupiter. Mercury wants precision, proof, categories. Jupiter wants expansion, faith, and more. Jupiter just want to pile stuff up in the garage. And Mercury's like, hey man, we need to categorize this. We need to put this stuff in order. So the South Node in Virgo, Mercury, is about stop letting perfectionism strangle your growth. You wanting to be perfect, wanting everything to be perfect, when it comes to growth, you're just strangling in it. And the North Node in Pisces, Jupiter, let analysis serve expansion instead of preventing it. all the stuff, all this information you gather and you watch and you analyze, you gather all this information, but after you gather it and analyze it, you're supposed to grow from it. Don't get scared and end up. We got this Saturn in Pisces throughout this whole story. By the way, Saturn has been traveling through Pisces since March of 2023. And this retrograde period right now is Saturn cleaning up, making sure the cleanup is complete of this Piscean area. Saturn in Pisces throughout this story gives structure. It gives structure to Jupiter's domain. Teaches the mutable cross how to stabilize. Mutable energy is the energy of change. Cardinal is the energy of initiation. Fixed is the energy of holding that energy. Mutable is the energy of change. But can change be stable? Or how can you stabilize through change? Saturn in Pisces is ensuring that adaptation as you trying to adapt to the change. This change doesn't turn into chaos. Saturn up there in Pisces is making sure Mercury and Jupiter, their collaboration has bones, has structure. It's not just a bunch of ideas. Hey, y'all got all that stuff. Y'all keep talking back and forth and all that. Structure this stuff, and then Saturn in Aries completes the lesson. These new structures based on what was learned. It's time to initiate. Get this stuff started. Get this stuff started. That's where we headed. Tomorrow, it's planting the seed. Planting the seed to what? I release my need to be perfect before I begin. Release the need to be perfect before you begin. You get your pens and paper, boys and girls. Here's the homework. But for this new moon, something for you to think about. 3 areas. Write 3 areas where perfectionism blocking your growth. What are 3 areas where perfectionism is blocking your growth? Speak them out loud. Mercury and Mars and Scorpio. Name that shadow. And then after you name it and identify the 3 areas that's blocking your growth, go burn that sucker or bury them. Offering for Jupiter. Make an offering for Jupiter. Acknowledge Saturn's witnessing and the vow. Acknowledge that vow that you took. Or are you trying to run away from that vow? And your homework today, I want you to begin something that's not perfect and begin it immediately. Do it right now. You got to do it right now. Well, hold up. Let this video finish. But after this video finishes, something that you stop yourself from doing because it ain't perfect, do it. Just go do it. Journaling homework. Where am I overanalyzing? What would I do if I trusted intuition over plans? What relationship needs truth-telling over peacekeeping? What did I vow when the fog cleared? Am I honoring it? make these notes, y'all. And by the way, by the time you get to April Fool, I'm telling y'all all this because by the time we get to April Fool, I don't want you to be the fool. So write this stuff down. So you need to write it down now so you could be the witness of your growth and see what has dissolved. By the time we get to April 1st, April Fools, will Mercury still be overanalyzing? Has Jupiter expanded? Is Jupiter expanded on lost ground? Or has Jupiter expanded on firm ground? Is Jupiter and Mercury in your chart working together? Or are they still having that antagonistic relationship? Right? Now, before... Now, that was the full moon. That was the new moon. All right, we went through Venus's exaltation to humbling. Now we went through the new moon to full moon seeding. Hopefully y'all got an idea where you should be planting the seed. Now, I said the name of this is the year of purification. The year of purification. Well, what year are you talking about, Paul? You just, right? And actually, the year I'm talking about, now we at part 3. And we are in a year of expansion. Remember I talked about Jupiter? Remember I've been talking about Jupiter this whole time? Remember I was talking about Jupiter? All of this, right? This new moon has something to do with Jupiter's year of expansion in Cancer at the exalted position. So now you see why I said, hey, if you're just looking at Venus and thinking about what Venus is and all of that, you might miss the mark when it comes to doing this intention, because you really need to bring this in the story. Now, Jupiter has been trying to expand. Why am I talking about Jupiter? Remember, Venus made that vow with the North Node and Saturn. And where are they? In Pisces. Who rules Pisces? Jupiter. So you think that this year, you don't think that what was going on in Pisces, Jupiter, or the sign that Jupiter rules, that don't have anything to do with this expansion? Now, for you tarot lovers, in the tarot deck, Jupiter is the wheel of fortune. And Cancer is the chariot. And I keep saying to y'all, Jupiter is exalted. And Jupiter, the wheel of fortune, went into the chariot June 2025. And June 10th, 2025. And the wheel of fortune will be in the chariot until June 30th, 31st, 2026. A year. Now we get to the year of purification. Jupiter is trying to expand in the chariot for a year, but Venus, the exalted queen of Pisces, needed purification. And these relationships is holding back my Jupiter's exalted expansion. The Wheel of Fortune and the Chariot, when fate, Wheel of Fortune, fate operates at peak power through emotional mastery, directed destiny, unstoppable momentum. Jupiter is the Wheel of Fortune. The Wheel of Fortune is about fate. It's about cycles. It's about destiny. It's about divine timing. Cancer, the Chariot, is about willpower, emotional intelligence, and protective momentum. Jupiter is exalted in Cancer. Fate at peak power through emotional mastery. Oh, shit. Did he just say, if I want my fate to come through, I have to embrace emotional mastery? But to embrace emotional mastery, that means I might have to go down into some of them shadows, deal with some of that shadow shit, huh? Translation. Your will aligns with universal will, creating unstoppable momentum through fated emotional territory. Directed destiny. You're both driver and the passenger. Now, Jupiter, I told you it takes a year for Jupiter to pretty much go through a sign, which means Jupiter's cycle is pretty much a 12-year cycle. Growth and expansion from any house wherever you start at, takes 12 years of that cycle for growth and expansion. Right? Jupiter entered Cancer in June 10th, and the year-long journey through exaltation began. Now, when it comes to Cancer, right? In the Chariot is connected to the Two of Cups, Three of Cups, and the Four of Cups. Now, by the way, y'all, what I'm talking about in this year-long process, we're not even halfway through it yet. So some of the stuff I'm about to talk about, we ain't got to yet. It's coming up. By the way, well, you know that we ain't got to the full moon yet, so I already covered that. All right, so when it comes to Cancer energy, the 2, 3, and 4 of Cups is Cancer energy. Jupiter went into the Wheel of Fortune, went into the Chariot, and started dealing with 2 of Cups energy. Then Jupiter moved all the way up, moved through the 3 of Cups, and moved through the 4 of Cups, and then Jupiter's going to go retrograde. Hey, what's up, Tam? Jupiter's going to go retrograde. Go retrograde in the 4 of Cups, come back to the 3 of Cups, and then go back to the 4 of Cups, right? So Jupiter's moving through in forward motion through the cups, right? And remember, all this other stuff that I covered before is going on. New moon, full moon, right? So around November 11th, which we're a little bit less than a month away, Jupiter will station to go retrograde in the 4 cups. It'll retrograde from November through March, and then Jupiter's gonna go turn direct in the 3 of cups and finally make its way out of the Four of Cups at the end of June. Let's just say beginning of July. Jupiter is going to be entering into the strength, Leo. Right? So let's walk through that, right? Jupiter moves through the cups. Cups is water. Water is emotions. These cups is about relationships. It's about intuition, the heart's terrain. This expands Venus's lesson into the entire emotional body. So all of this stuff that Venus was going through, it has something to do with Jupiter's expansion and what's going on in the emotional world. Right? We had phase one, the Two of Cups, the sacred mirror, partnerships, soul level union, mutual recognition. After Venus's journey, can you meet another in authentic truth without fantasy or criticism? Can you meet somebody in your authentic truth? Well, you need to be being authentic to be able to meet somebody true. Right? Then Jupiter moved on to the Three of Cups. Three of Cups, private bond. The private bond expands, Jupiter's about expansion, into collective celebration. Venus's lessons start being manifested. Community with clear eyes. Not the Neptunian fog that was going on when Venus met Neptune a couple of times. Right? The celebration was externalized and then we kind of here now, right? Which is the Four Cups. Jupiter is actually in the Four Cups now, a month away from turning retrograde. And this is a contemplative withdrawal. Withdrawing to contemplate. After the celebration comes the reassessment, emotional apathy, contemplation, a new offer. Jupiter will station direct November 11th. Then it's going to retrograde back to the Three of Cups. Four of Cups can be healthy contemplation or premature withdrawal. The universe is saying, not yet. You're not done with joy. Unfinished joy. Withdrawal is premature. Unfinished joy to reclaim. Do you need to go back to something? Is there some joy that you need to go back to? And Jupiter's going to retrograde back to the Three of Cups and try to return to the celebration and audit the joy. Re-examine what you dismissed. Were they really celebrating authentic gratitude? Were they really celebrating me for me, or were they just placating? Stay present in community. Don't forget the North Node lesson of stop analyzing. Virgo South Node. This isn't perfect. Return to presence. North Node. Just be in joy. Can you trust the feeling over overthinking? And then Jupiter will station direct around March 10th, 2026. And that review of the joy will be complete. And then Jupiter will then move forward back into the Four of Cups. Not for repetition, but for permission. The contemplation earned through presence, withdrawal conscious, not reactive. Conscious withdrawal, not reactive withdrawal. As in, I'm leaving because I'm mad. No, you know what? I need to back off of this and really sit back and think about it. Some new offers that will come up. You're going to start seeing those offers clearly. Make sure discernment without criticism. It's about the teaching. You can only withdraw into wisdom after fully showing up with joy. What does that mean to y'all? Y'all type in the chat what y'all. What's that mean to y'all? You can only withdraw into wisdom after fully showing up for joy. What does that mean to y'all? As I wait for some answers, I'll be right back. All right, did we get any answers? No answers? Nobody responded? Ah, damn. What kind of crowd are you all? Y'all don't want to put yourself out there like that. I get it. and then the phase 3, which would be Jupiter move. The Strength card. Not forceful control, but gentle mastery. Going in there to tame the lion through love, not domination. Courage born from vulnerability, emotional sovereignty, love without losing yourself, compassionate fortitude. All right. Jupiter, the ruler of the North Node. In Pisces, the planet that's driving emotional journey also rules our karmic destiny. Jupiter escorts you towards your North Node lessons. These eclipses is actively pulling you towards your soul purpose. The North Node in Pisces demands away from South Node, Virgo, perfectionism, overanalyzing, control, self-abandonment through service, and wants you to move toward Pisces North Node, surrender, faith, flow, compassion, spiritual trust, dissolving of your ego. Right? So, right now, where are we right now? We at the Venus completion point. What was released at the South Node is integrating Saturn's reality lesson, preparing for the Libra new moon, fresh start tomorrow. Jupiter still moving forward, trying to move, building celebration energy. It hasn't hit its retrograde testing moment yet. That's November. Expansion's genuine enjoy while staying grounded? Can you expand genuinely and stay grounded? Saturn, I'm talking about where we're at currently. I'm talking about this energy here. This is where we're at today. Right now, current. Right? Retrograde, Saturn retrograde at 26 Pisces, reviewing, holding space for where the promise was made. New moon happens under his witness. The question that's being asked right now, what did I release when fall cleared? Whatever you released when the fall cleared, what remained, is that real? How has your understanding of love, value, connection changed since January? I'm talking about these questions I'm asking you right now is since January. What did I release when the fall cleared? What remained? Is that still real? How has my understanding of love, value, connection changed? What am I ready to begin with clear eyes? What did I vow when reality met the vision? You should be setting intentions around relationship, honoring reality, not fantasy, in relationships. Value serving actual life, not you imagine one. Are your values focused on reality or the fantasy value? That's where you need to be setting your intentions at for tomorrow. Beauty including truth, not just surface. You got to go deep. You got to go beneath the surface. Harmony, allowing authentic boundaries. Partnerships built on mutual sight, not projection. Commitments you can keep. Saturn is watching. There's earned wisdom. Venus has earned wisdom in the air for you to grab onto. Jupiter is sitting in Cancer with a protective, expansive energy. Mercury's clear communication, right? Saturn is witnessing, grounding all of this in reality, knowledge that reality is more valuable than dreams. Right? All right. This year is where fate teaches how to love consciously. Lil Wayne got a song called How to Love. Maybe maybe you need to do a month or so of just listening to love songs to figure out how to love. Not love as fantasy, Pisces, Neptune. Not love as transaction, Virgo, analysis. If I do this, if I love you, you going to give me this? But love as presence, clear-eyed, open-hearted, grounded in reality, lifted by faith. By June, hopefully you will learn to release the illusions with grace, the Venus journey, to celebrate without needing perfection, Jupiter's thing, the Cups journey, withdraw without bitterness. Can you leave a group without being mad and want to, to hold mystical faith and practical wisdom, the Mercury-Jupiter collaboration, the two enemies trying to work against it? And can you keep Saturn's vow when tested? When the tough get going, do you get running or do you stand up? When do you fold up like a dollar bill or do you stand up like a man? That's what Saturn wants to know. To be strong through softness, sovereign through surrender. Right? Venus is asking, can you love what's real? Jupiter asks, can you celebrate fully before you analyze? Saturn asks, can you keep the vow when tested? North Node asks, can you surrender control and trust divine flow? Can you trust divine flow? You know, somebody was just talking about yesterday, does the universe doesn't have everybody's back. That's another video from Brain Repair coming near you. Can my precision serve expansion instead of strangle it? Your answer to the universe should be, yes, universe. Step back and watch me shine. Y'all have any questions? Any questions? Any questions? Any questions? That's that. We at the 2-hour mark, y'all. Damn. Which is interesting. By the way, y'all, if y'all just to bring y'all in the back offices of me, you know, in a way, me doing this like this is actually me planting the seed of new. I don't really get down like this, y'all. Usually see my recorded videos and all that stuff. So, in all actuality, for me, this is me pushing past energy, pushing past blockages, pushing past perfectionism. I am a Virgo, 3 planets in Virgo. So, you know, I had to push past energy to be talking to y'all like this. For real. So, yeah, that's it. Huh. Do I have let's say, any questions, y'all? When it comes to the rising signs, I might give y'all the rising signs on something recorded. Yeah, so, but y'all got the backstory. Hopefully, you can use this backstory, and hopefully y'all seen, hopefully you seen what I was painting an outline. I talked about an arc of energy and an outline of energy, and hopefully, you know, within that arc of energy that you could see your story. You could see how your Venus story of what you needed to dissolve, you know, yeah, what you needed to. By the way, y'all, the mutable cross, right? The work is happening in the mutable cross. What's the mutable cross? Your Virgo Pisces axis, Gemini Sagittarius axis. That's where the eclipse is going on. So, I guess, how do you deal with change? Are you good with change? Are you good with change? Do you feel chaotic when change is around and the universe is asking you to change? No matter what rising sign you have, the houses Venus transited show where your fantasy met reality. The houses Jupiter is transiting shows where celebration is being tested, then earned. Wherever Cancer is for you. The eclipse axis is showing you the karmic release from the Virgo to the Pisces axis. The common thread is wherever this is happening in your chart, you're learning to hold faith and form, surrender and structure, divine flow, and earthly mastery. Hopefully, by June of 2026, you're going to be standing in faith. How to use what I said, find your rising sign, right? Find your natal Venus. Understand that wherever your natal Venus is, that was being pure. That is what pointing to what that Venus trip was being purified. Look at where your natal Jupiter is, and look at where Cancer is, and that is what is Jupiter is trying to expand within this whole year. Put those two together. Yeah. And look at where Pisces and Virgo is, because that is the soul axis of, and that's where your soul's assignment is. That's where your soul is working on. You know, you can notice the overlap of some of the energy where, I got this here and I got this here. It's overlapping. That can mean some, double stuff. Right? And remember, the wheel of fortune is spinning. The wheel of fate, the wheel of fortune is spinning. Where that wheel stops for you, it's going to stop differently for all of us. But where it stops for you is going to show where you put in the work, if you learn a lesson. Do you have the faith? Did you surrender? Did you work on the strength? Did you bring these mystical ideas and all these ideas you got? Did you learn to manifest them here on earth? Hopefully that resonated with y'all. If not, so be it. I feel good about what I just put out there. So if you have any questions, you can feel free to send me an email. Leave a comment below. I'll probably respond. I want to thank y'all for rocking with me. You know how I end this. Know thyself and balance your energy. Peace, y'all.